Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's story takes us straight to the property line where a new set of neighbors decided the word shared didn't apply to fences or basic courtesy. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. New neighbors tore down our shared fence, left a gap for us to fix, so I fixed it with screws. So a little backstory. My family's lived in the same neighborhood for 35 years, and in that time had pretty much the same two neighbors on each side with shared chain link fences on both sides marking the property lines. Never having issues because we have good communication and friendly relationships with both of these neighbors. Now the issue is the neighbor on my left had been retired for a number of years and finally got to be too much house for him, and he sold it and moved somewhere warmer. So enter new neighbors, a couple in their late 30s, early 40s, I can best estimate. I want to preface this paragraph with, I don't have a problem with what they did, but how they handled it all. And also, it's my mom's house. Dad's dead, was alive when this happened. Apologize if this bit's scattered, but it all took place over the course of like 4 years. Because my mom is stubborn as crap. I've been handling things for about a decade now because my parents have and had crappy health. On to the issue. So new neighbors leave a note on our door while my mom is in the hospital and proceed to tear out our shared chain link fence all the way to the bigger post that holds our gate and the rest of the fencing that goes to our house to enclose the backyard, then stuck up a wooden fence for privacy. None of that's the issue, though. My issue is they didn't line up said wooden fence with the post. They left a little over a foot gap between the post and their fence, basically effing with the security of our property because anyone, or at least most people, could just slide through the gap and enter our backyard. Then, when we asked basically WTF, their response was, well, we could fix it. However, we needed to and attach whatever to the fence. So now we're all pissed, and I'm pissed because I'm the one that has to find the time and fix it, and I'm stubborn too. Got it from my mama. Enter my older brother, who finally helped me by getting the chicken wire I asked from him about 6 months ago because I was fed up and I want a dog which won't stay in the yard with the damn gap. Now for the petty revenge. So I wrapped the chicken wire around the post as best I could while having to tediously cut small sections in the wire so that it would fit around the fittings. Clamps, IDK, whatever the things that attach the fencing to the post that were still on the post are called. After fighting with all that for about 30 minutes, I'm frustrated and pretty pissed off, so I go to the garage and rummage through my dad's old tool bench, and lo and behold, I found an almost brand new old wood screw kit with all sorts of sizes. Now, I'd passed over other, nicer, less fence-damaging options during my search, but I was far past the point of being nice or considerate. I picked a size or two up from the size needed to affix the chicken wire and proceeded to drill 6 screw holes down the side of their fence, and now there's no more gap in our fence, so I'm happy. The looks on their faces must have been priceless when they saw the chicken wire attached to their wood fence. You did exactly what they told you to do. Cheap B-turds got what they deserved. And our second story. Entitled parents think my private play area is a public park. So my husband and I have lived in the same place for over 20 years now. It's a lot that we've slowly grown to love, but the area around us has changed drastically over the years. When we bought the house, there were only about 800 people living here, and now it's a bustling neighborhood of 10,000 plus. It used to be mostly open space, but now there's a whole bunch of new builds coming up, and the neighborhood's pretty unrecognizable from when we first moved in. We live on a nice big lot, about 1.5 acres, and a few years ago we decided to install a play area on the far end of the property for our nieces and nephews, and hopefully grandkids down the road. It's quite a ways from the house, set off near our second driveway. We had it landscaped and bought it from a contractor who was replacing another park's play area. It's a nice little setup, and to be honest, I don't mind people stopping by to use it every so often. I've got 2 big dogs, though, so I usually make sure the yard's marked with clear signs saying private property and beware of dog. The dogs are friendly, but they definitely do not like strangers wandering into their space. This happens often enough that I've gotten used to it, but it's a little different when it's freezing cold and it's early on a Friday morning. I went outside to let my dogs out into the yard, and they usually just do their thing. They stay within the boundaries of the yard and ignore anything going on outside, but today I hear them barking like crazy. And then I hear yelling, so I quickly run outside to check what's going on. I find a couple and their kid playing on the playground. I immediately call the dogs back inside the house and put them away. I approach them to apologize and explain that the play area is private property, not a public park. The second I get close enough, the mom starts yelling at me, calling me all sorts of things and demanding that I get a fence and saying I should never let my dogs just run around a park. At this point, I'm really shaky because I'm not a fan of confrontation, but I try to explain that it's not a park, it's my private property. She's not hearing it, though, and continues yelling that it's illegal to leave a play area open and illegal to have my dogs off leash. None of this is true, by the way. There's literally nothing in the bylaws where we live that says I can't let my dogs out in my yard. But it's clear she's not listening. I try again to ask them to leave and tell them they're trespassing and that they aren't allowed on the property. Meanwhile, my dogs are barking in the window, and her husband starts yelling at me about how I need to train my effing dogs before they kill someone. This comment really set me off. I'm a total animal lover, and no one gets to talk about my dogs like that, especially when they aren't even aggressive, just protective by nature. I decided enough was enough and called the police. The second they heard I was on the phone with the cops, they started yelling at me, calling me a Karen, and they quickly jumped in their car to leave. I could hear their poor kid crying, and I overheard the mom threatening me that I'd be all over Facebook and that she was going to tell people where I lived. Honestly, I've been so frustrated with this whole situation, I've contacted a company to get a gate for our second driveway to prevent people from just walking onto our property. Also, just to clarify, where we live, you can't easily sue someone for trespassing. The laws here don't exactly favor lawsuits unless there's a big issue, and this wasn't one of those situations. I'm just tired of dealing with entitled people thinking they can do whatever they want on my property, and I'm tired of being called a Karen for simply asking them to respect my space. I don't know what's next, but I'm definitely done being polite about this. Honestly, it's exhausting that people like this exist. You didn't move into a gated fortress, you moved into a peaceful area and made it better by building a space for your family. You tried to be neighborly, and they weaponized your kindness and then villainized you when you held a boundary. And our last story. 500,000 reasons not to mess with the farmer's bridge. I grew up believing roots were stronger than money. My family's 100-acre farm outside Kingston's been ours since 1784, when my many great-granddads swapped a barrel of rum and 2 musket balls for 20 scruffy acres and kept buying every time a neighbor fell on hard times. By 1987, the place looked much the same as it had in the 50s. Weather-beaten red barns, cedar bridge over a narrow creek, black Angus cattle that mooed the dawn awake. Then Riverside Estates sprouted next door, million-dollar villas, a pastel-painted clubhouse, and a golf course so green it made AstroTurf blush. The newcomers formed an HOA within a month. At its helm, Gwendolyn McIntyre, thin as a tent pole, skin like sun-dried cod, cigarette welded to her lower lip. I called her Karen because the name fit like a golf glove. She knocked on my door her first week, coughing theatrically through a halo of Du Maurier smoke. My cows, she announced, were disturbing the acoustic harmony of the community. The barn's flaking red siding clashed with our coastal palette, and the cedar bridge reflected sunlight into her convertible like a laser. I told her the barn had clashed with everything for 100 years and wasn't losing sleep over it. She left an official warning scroll by the dog bowl. My shepherd shredded it before lunch. I thought the nuisance would fizzle. Instead, they targeted the bridge. Dad had built that arch span in '63 out of white cedar he planed himself. Without it, tractors would have to detour 3 miles of potholes. One August afternoon, I came home from the livestock auction and heard chainsaws screaming by the creek. 4 guys in safety vests were slicing my bridge into firewood while Karen posed beside them, exhaling Morse code and smoke. "Ma'am," I said, "that's private property. Got a permit?" "This unsafe structure threatened community aesthetics," she sniffed. "We're acting in the best interests of Riverside Estates." I dialed Sheriff Kenzie, a childhood hockey rival turned lawman. He photographed the carnage, took down the lumberjacks' names, and murmured that somebody here had flunked Geography 101. Karen promised we'd resolve it in court if you insist. I decided I insisted. Enter Arthur Finley, a silver-haired barrister known to make tax auditors whimper. He leafed through plat maps, tallied damages, and said, "This case smells like a blues tune with 5 zeros." We sued for material loss, business interruption, fuel costs from the detour, even the vet bill after one confused cow sprained a hawk on a makeshift ramp. Hearings dragged through the fall like cold maple syrup. Karen arrived each session with fresh tales. The bridge wobbled like a drunken sailor. My herd glared menacingly at children. Cow belches caused localized greenhouse spikes. Jurors chuckled, but the question lingered. Would a judge buy the HOA's public good argument over private land rights? I sat silent, counting coughs as she chain-smoked the witness table into a gray fog. December's finale felt like overtime in a playoff. Finley unveiled an engineer's report. The bridge had held 3 tons with margin to spare. A forensic accountant followed, waving receipts for diesel, rented culverts, and lost grain deliveries. The running total stayed hidden until the closing moment. The courtroom smelled of tinsel and stale coffee when the jury filed back in. My pulse pounded like a diesel pump cavitating. The foreman cleared his throat. Judge Milligan, a man carved from Canadian winter, rose. In the matter of Willoughby versus Riverside HOA, damages are awarded to the plaintiff in the amount of 500,000 Canadian dollars and 75 cents. Karen's exhale looked like a tire fire. Her lawyer twitched, but Milligan pointed at the door. File an appeal after you study a map. Suspense evaporated faster than snow on a salt truck. For once, the good guys cashed the check. The money landed in late February, bundled with an invoice from the courthouse janitor. Scraping Du Maurier ash off the parquet isn't free. I hired craftsmen to erect a reinforced concrete bridge wide enough to parade a whole herd across. At both ends, I bolted bronze plaques sponsored by our generous neighbors. Next came the fence. 8 feet of pressure-treated cedar followed the entire property line like a wooden magnet. 8 feet of pressure-treated cedar followed the entire property line like a wooden Maginot. On my side, I painted cheerful murals. Cows scoring soccer goals against golfers, tuxedoed chickens popping champagne, pigs lounging under banners reading, "Smells like nature." The Riverside face, neon orange with jagged purple stripes, lit by motion-activated floodlights. Not a bylaw in Ontario could fault the height or the setback. Residents petitioned the township to address the visual monstrosity. Officials laughed. Private land, legal fence, learn to live with art. Karen vanished from HOA letterhead soon after. Rumor says she fled to Florida for air unsullied by cattle, where I hope the gators moo at sunrise. Now each morning I stroll the new bridge, tip my hat, and listen to hooves drum on concrete paid for by people who despised its very existence. I installed one final brass plate at the tallest stretch of fence. 3 words, my creed and an eternal reminder, this isn't HOA. Whenever a muffled complaint wafts over the fairway, I scratch my beard and smile. Some bridges connect riverbanks, others join a checking account to pure, uncut justice. And every so often, when I freshen the fence paint, I still find a stray fleck of cigarette ash between the boards. It reminds me that folks shouldn't mess with things that stood long before their precious coastal palate. Don't go on someone else's land with a chainsaw and papers from the HOA if you're not ready to finance the bridge and fence. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.